Hey, what's up everyone, Best in West here, and today we're going to be visiting my friend Zayzilla's tournament that he had maybe like last week in San Francisco. He swept that tournament going 5-0 and winning 13 out of his 15 battles. That's pretty impressive considering the level of talent we have here in the Bay Area. So yeah, hopefully we can watch it, learn some things, and prepare for our upcoming Ferocious Cup tomorrow. So let's go. Alright, so getting into the battles, we have for the first round, Zay is going against Tough Puff. Tough Puff's team is going to be Shelgon, Alolan Ninetales, Nidoqueen, Furret, Suicune, and Alolan Raichu. Zay's team, since we didn't go over it yet, is going to be Skuntank, Alolan Ninetales, Umbreon, Shelgon, Suicune, and Vaporeon. So he is running double water, but his double water is Suicune, and that's going to change some things up. Suicune can kind of throw things into a loop because it's more of a support role, but it also has a nuke in Hydro Pump. So how he plays it is going to be very interesting. His opponent is also running Suicune, so that kind of throws a wrench into the whole team composition thing. Both of them are running Shelgon. His opponent does not have an Umbreon though, so yeah, and Zay's not running a Nidoqueen, so Skuntank's kind of a softer counter to Alolan Ninetales, so we'll see how he works around that. But let's get into the first battle. So against Tough Puff, he leads off Skuntank against Tough Puff's Suicune. So this matchup can go either way depending on if Tough Puff decides to shield or not. So looks like he's going straight for the Bubble Beam. So Zay correctly decides not to shield this. Does take the attack debuff. Gonna go straight for the Sludge Bomb. This Sludge Bomb, it gets blocked, and Zay switches straight into Shelgon, and that was a unfortunate outcome. Zay's gonna go for Twister, and Tough Puff decides to shield it. Tough Puff should have known that he was not going to be able to get to a flamethrower in time before Alolan Ninetales knocks him out. But good for Zay, he ends up bringing Skuntank back out with a 2-shield advantage. Tough Puff's gonna go ahead and get a charge move off, Ice Beam. Zay correctly predicts that and blocks it. He's going to go for a Crunch. This should knock out this Alolan Ninetales, mainly because he has no more shields. But it doesn't. Zay switches into his own Alolan Ninetales against this Suicune. Suicune is going to get another Bubble Beam off, and Zay decides not to shield this correctly. But that attack debuff is going to hurt, but with one extra shield and Suicune like around half health, yeah, this should be GG for Zay. Zay should win this. He's gonna decide not to charge this. I'm not 100% sure why he did that. Could have just charged it, but he's gonna take another Bubble Beam and faint him down. GG. Oh no, he has one more Pokemon. My bad. I guess he wanted to farm up on that last Pokemon. Oh wow, that was really good. He farmed up on that Suicune to get this Ice Beam. And GG. Wow, okay, so that was my fault. There was an extra Pokemon in the back, but I think Zay had it either way. He did take an extra Bubble Beam, so yeah, it's okay. And they're gonna go into it with looks like different teams. So leading off Alolan Ninetales against an Alolan Raichu. So Alolan Raichu gains a weakness to the Dark type Pokemon, but it has Thunder Shock. That's not Legacy, so that's a plus. Gonna get that Thunder Punch off. Deals a decent chunk to that Alolan Ninetales, but is going to get to another charge move right here. Decides to shield it. Zay decides to shield it, and then is going to switch into his Vaporeon, and his opponent blind switches into his own Alolan Ninetales. So we'll see how this plays out. Zay's going to get this Aqua Tail off first. His opponent decides to shield it. That's interesting. Maybe because he knew that he had a shield advantage, Zay's gonna get this second Aqua Tail off and deal a significant amount of damage, but his opponent is going to be able to knock out his Vaporeon. So at this point, I'm thinking bring Skuntank. Yep, Skuntank to try to farm up some energy. He's gonna go ahead and take this. If it's an Ice Beam, that's bad news. It deals a decent chunk of damage, about 50-55% damage. Switches out into Shelgon. Zay decides to switch into Alolan Ninetales and is going to have to block this because Twister is going to get nearly KO. And if it's Flamethrower, it's KO. So he didn't want to waste that energy. Switches and Raichu is KO'd. GG. So I believe that's 2 rounds for Zay now with the restart at the beginning. So going into the 3rd battle, they decide to go for the 3rd battle. Zay leads off with Suicune against Nidoqueen. So this is a positive matchup for Zay. He doesn't really have to build up to Hydro Pump. It's up to him. He's gonna go into Bubble Beam. He could just like Bubble Beam, Bubble Beam, Bubble Beam. And Nidoqueen is going to take super effective damage from those Bubble Beams. So his opponent does decide to switch out. Zay's going to get this Bubble Beam off to reduce that Dragon Breath damage. And that's pretty big, and especially since Zay has an Alolan Ninetales. Alolan Ninetales is just going to chunk away that Shelgon. And this is going to be the last charge move that Tough Puff is going to be able to get off. And I'm pretty sure, Flamethrower. Even though it's super effective, it does not KO Alolan Ninetales, so that's something to take into account. His opponent is going to get a charge move off right here, Earth Power. Zay figures his Alolan Ninetales did his job. His opponent does not have an Umbreon, so that's good. He sends Suicune back out, gets another Bubble Beam off to reduce the damage of those poison jabs even further. And shielding a Bubble Beam kind of hurts, so Tough Puff decides to let that go. Zay's going to get another Bubble Beam off right here. Super effective damage, going to knock out if not shielded, so his opponent does decide to shield. I expect a shield from Zay, but he decides not to, probably because that damage is so reduced. Both of them switch out again, but Zay has a shield advantage. Skuntank versus Alolan Ninetales. This is a great matchup for him. He's going to go for the crunch. If he lets it go, Skuntank will get pretty close to knocking out this Alolan Ninetales. He's going to get another crunch, so that's definitely the game changer right there. Skuntank getting to that second crunch, and that's pretty much GG. This Nidoqueen is going to be able to get to a Earth Power, but Suicune has 2 shields, right? So those 2 shields are going to be pretty big, and plus Nidoqueen's attack damage is reduced. So, he got the defense debuff though, so that could have played if the game lasted any longer, but GG. So that was round 1 against Tough Puff. Zay played that pretty well, going 3-0. Yeah, I think it was just a tough battle for Tough Puff. Knowing that Tough Puff only had Shelgon as his generalist, I guess, outside of Alolan Ninetales, it made it pretty easy to predict when to sack Alolan Ninetales or shield it, right? He expected something. Furret doesn't really do too much against Zay's team. Yeah, there's no hard weakness to fighting. The only Pokemon that's weak to fighting is the Umbreon, and even then, Umbreon's so tanky that Brick Break is not that great of a fighting move that Umbreon can just take it. But going into this next battle, it's going to be against Alan. Alan, he's a really good trainer. He has good days and bad days, but yeah, we're just gonna get right into this second round. We'll see how it is. I think same leads. Nope, same leads. So Skuntank versus Skuntank. So this is a rematch of the previous battle. There were some lag issues, so I believe they're trying to not get piggybacked from each other, so they're just going to keep on going. And Zay decides to let his crunch off first. And Alan decides to shield that. Zay is going to decide not to shield this. And okay, it was just the visual glitch. Alan's going to get a charge move off right here, and Zay is going to block it. This time, Zay decides to block a crunch. So Alan switches into his own Alolan Ninetales, and this is going to... Zay's able to get this Psyshock off first. And Alan's going to block that, and they're going to go back at it. Alan is able to knock out the Alolan Ninetales, but Zay does have the shield advantage. And if I'm correct, he should bring in Skuntank, block this charge move, and just farm down this Alolan Ninetales, and have a charge move for the next Pokemon coming in. Alan probably waiting at that switch clock. Zay's going to hit that Sludge Bomb, and that was a good call. This is going to deal a good chunk of damage, probably around 30%. And Zay switches straight into the mirror. And Alan's Umbreon is running Dark Pulse, so I'm not sure if Alan has a Last Resort Umbreon at this point. But Zay does have a Last Resort Umbreon, and this is a... If my prediction is correct, Zay has the advantage. He does get that piggyback right there. Gets an extra Snore of Energy, which is huge. Oh, okay, so Alan is running Last Resort Dark Pulse. That's interesting. Anyways, Zay's going to get this Last Resort off and deal a significant amount of damage to Skuntank. And Skuntank pretty much just eats it, takes it like a shield. But Zay does get an extra Snore off and gets this Last Resort on Alan's Umbreon. Zay gets another Snarl of Piggyback, and Alan gets this Last Resort off, but not nearly enough to knock out Zay, and Zay's gonna get this last Resort off and knock out Alan's Umbreon. GG. So that one was... So it was Skuntank. Actually, they ran the same team, right? It was Skuntank, Alolan Ninetales, Umbreon, and it was just a matter of energy and switching that made the difference in that battle, right? Zay just had better switching. Switching in this tournament is definitely not a bad thing. I feel like switching and energy management is how you win this tournament, not necessarily team composition or spicy picks, spicy move picks. It's all about how you play the game. So knowing when to switch, knowing how many fast moves to get to a charge move. Zay played that really well. Alan just kind of fell behind a little bit. But yeah, let's go to the next battle. So this time, Zay decides to lead off with Umbreon. So Zay's leading off with Umbreon. Alan decides to lead off with Skuntank. So this is a positive matchup for Zay. As long as he doesn't throw a foul play to his opponent's like Ninetales or something. But anyway, Zay's gonna get this Last Resort off first, and it looks like Alan decides to block that. And Alan is going to get his own charge move off. Sludge Bomb deals a significant amount of damage, but Zay is at another Last Resort, and I don't expect Alan to block this one. And Zay decides to swap into his Vaporeon and block whatever this is, and it's going to be a blocked crunch, which is fine. Zay gets a little bit of energy advantage. Good. Try to charge up to that Last Resort, but Alan's able to get to his charge move first. Dark Pulse deals, oh man, almost 50% damage. Zay's gonna let go of this Aqua Tail, and no, I was gonna say he's gonna get double Aqua Tail, but he doesn't. He's gonna get to the second Aqua Tail though. and deals decent amount of damage. Those water guns are chipping away. Don't expect Zay to shield right here. Oh man, almost knocks out his Vaporeon. Alan is able to farm up 2 more Snarls of energy, which is pretty big actually, and knock out his Zay's Vaporeon. So this should be a last resort coming in. Not going to knock out Umbreon, but pretty close. Zay's going to switch into his Skuntank and try to farm down this Umbreon, is my guess, my best guess. I'm going to eat this Dark Pulse. I'm surprised Alan didn't go for the last resort. That would have been the better move, but anyways, good for Zay, able to just eat that Dark Pulse. So Skuntank versus Alolan Ninetales. This is definitely a positive matchup for Alolan Ninetales, but Zay does have the energy to get off 2 crunches, so that could be the changing factor. Oh, he had enough for a crunch and a Sludge Bomb, so this Sludge Bomb is going to nuke this Alolan Ninetales and KO it. So now all Alan has is his own Skuntank. His Skuntank is going to be able to knock out Zay's Skuntank, but Zay is going to be able to get this next charge move off, I believe. Oh no! Wow, okay. So even though Zay had that shield and was able to block that charge move, those poison jabs were enough to knock out Zay's Umbreon. Yeah, that was really close. As you see right here, as I paused it, last resort was charged up at that last poison jab. So yeah, it's one fast move made all the difference in this battle. Yeah, let's go to the next battle. So Alan versus Zay, I believe this is the third battle. I'm not quite sure. So Umbreon versus Skuntank. Again, this is a good lead for Zay. As long as you don't hit that foul play on accident, Zay is going to get this last resort off on this Alolan Ninetales. So good for Zay. He did not use the foul play prematurely. Gets a decent chunk off of Alolan Ninetales, and now Skuntank does have the advantage. He may opt to just farm down this Alolan Ninetales after blocking this charge move. Block the Side Shock, and yeah, it looks like Zay is just going to farm this down. Zay's gonna let go of this Sludge Bomb right away, not wanting to take a charge move from his opponent Alan, who did have a charge move charged up. Zay's gonna let this go. He doesn't have energy stored up, so that's great for Zay. Zay's gonna wait out the switch clock a little bit, bring out his Umbreon again, and he's gonna go for the foul play. Huh, interesting. Maybe knowing that he's not gonna be able to KO with just the last resort, get a shield bait opportunity knowing that his opponent has 2 shields. Now he's going to go for the last resort. Now his opponent, Alan, is going to have to think about using that second shield or not, decides not to. Knowing very well that last resort wasn't going to knock him out, but gets a second charge move off, and they both switch at the same time. Blind switch. Zay gets the better end of that, and is just going to pretty much charm him down. He can pretty much eat 2 last resorts and still KO Alan from neutral energy. So Alan's gonna get this second last resort off, and Zay's not going to shield it. And Zay's gonna have a charge move going into that last Pokemon, and it didn't even need to use it. It was a Skuntank with barely any energy left, and yeah, GG. So in that last battle, last round, you saw Zay go against Alan, and I'm pretty sure they're very familiar with each other. They're both in the East Bay. You've seen Alan in my other videos. You might have seen him in the San Francisco Pokegators tournament that King and I hosted. But yeah, it's pretty balanced teams. The only differences in between their teams was a Piloswine and a Shelgon. Piloswine Bibarel, yeah. So those two teams, they pretty much played this very similar lines both all three battles, right? So this cup, like I mentioned, it's all about prediction, not so much, there's some prediction involved, but it's more about energy management and switching, right? Knowing what kind of matchups you have, and knowing what kind of matchups you have against certain Pokemon is very hard, because sometimes with energy advantage, like the match gets flipped, right? Because everything's like a soft counter to another one, other than maybe the most distinctive positive and negative matchups are like Alolan Ninetales to Umbreon and Shelgon, right? Those are just pure wins, or a water type against the Piloswine, that's a pure win in terms of typing, versus like Skuntank versus Bibarel, right? Like with energy advantage, I believe Skuntank wins that, but head to head, I think Bibarel wins that in neutral energy. So there's a lot of things going on in this cup, and knowing when you have the advantage, knowing when you don't, knowing when to switch, all these things come into play. So yeah, and then you throw in Suicune into the mix, and it changes everything up even more, because those attack debuffs can flip matches as well. So it's kind of interesting, but it doesn't leave much room for creativity in terms of teams and movesets. But yeah, so going into this next round against Trainer AJG. Trainer AJG got the invite to our regionals last year. Got the invite to nationals last year, and he's a great trainer. Hasn't been able to match his success from regionals, but is still a very strong trainer in the Bay Area. So let's see how he does against Zay, who's kind of on a roll right now. I believe both of them are undefeated. Yeah, let's go into it. Oh, it looks like Zay's gonna go with the Skuntank lead. Pretty safe lead against his opponent. His opponent is going to lead off with the Linoon. Linoon in the lead, I'm not a huge fan of, and Skuntank is going to be resisting those Shadow Claws because of its dark typing. Zay's going to get off this Sludge Bomb, knowing that Linoon's pretty tanky, and Trainer AGG does decide to block that, switches into his Alolan Ninetales. So this should be a Grass Knot. Yep, deals significant damage, but it took so long to get there. So Trainer AGG decides to switch into his Bibarel. Bibarel is going to be able to get this Surf off. Zay, with very little health, decides not to shield that, opting to save those shields for his Shelgon and his Skuntank. Zay decides to bring in Shelgon, resisting those water guns. He just has to watch out for that Hyper Fang. That Hyper Fang is going to hurt, so Zay decides to shield this. It's a Surf, so he got baited, but not too badly. Is going to be able to farm down that Bibarel with a Twister to go. Gets the Twister off. Now, does Trainer AGG think it's a Flamethrower? He does, so he decides to block that. Zay switches into his Skuntank, and Trainer AGG switches into his Linoon. Linoon uses Grass Knot. Zay decides to shield, so now they're both at 0 shields. Skuntank is going to be able to get to this charge move first, deal a significant amount of damage. Oh, actually knocks it out. I was expecting a small farm down, but Trainer AGG sends out his Alolan Ninetales, but Zay has enough energy to get off this Sludge Bomb, which is going to KO this Alolan Ninetales. So GG for the first battle. So at this point, Zay is up 1 battle to 0 against Trainer AGG. Let's see what he does in the second battle. He's gonna lead off with Suicune. I think it was Alolan Ninetales and Umbreon. Suicune versus Nidoqueen. So this is a positive matchup for Zay. Like I mentioned, he can pretty much go Bubble Beam. So Trainer AGG switches into Linoon, and Zay's gonna go into this Bubble Beam and reduce the damage. Reduce the damage on Linoon, and switches into his Umbreon. Umbreon is going to be able to take this Grass Knot very easily, especially with a... Oh, it's a Dig. especially with the attack debuff. So I think Grass Knot is actually the correct way to go, Grass Knot being a more efficient move, but maybe Trainer JG has like some sims or something that he came out with Dig being the better move. Zay's going to go ahead and use his second foul play. Trainer AJG does decide to block that one. Gets another charge move off. It's Grass Knot, deals decent amount of damage, but with that attack debuff, it's kind of harsh. Zay's going to get another foul play off right after Trainer AJG switches into his Vaporeon. Zay does have the switch up and switches into his own Alolan Ninetales, and this is going to chunk away at this Vaporeon. Gets an extra piggybacked charm, and is going to be able to take this, but he blocks an Aqua Tail, and he's going to take another Aqua Tail right here, I believe. That's okay though. Alolan Ninetales can take that damage. I mean, he had 2 shields. He didn't want to let those 2 shields go to waste, or any of those shields go to waste, so go ahead and use that shield. Gets into a Nidoqueen, gets that Psyshock off. Not too much health to farm, so this is going to be okay for Zay. I believe he should bring out Suicune, which he does, and Bubble Beam is going to reduce the damage on that Nidoqueen, so he will be able to take one of those Earthquakes or one of those Earth Powers without using a shield. Switches into Linoon. Linoon is going to get a charge move off, and I believe Zay shields this. Yes, because one Bubble Beam should be able to knock out this Linoon. If not, Zay can farm up a little bit of energy, hopefully. Zay opting not to go with the full attack. Okay, so these Snarls are... Oh wow, so that was actually brilliant play from Zay. Not fully charging his Bubble Beam so he could farm up energy for this matchup right here. And he's going to get to a Hydro Pump, and this is going to be GG. So Zay, knowing that energy, how much to charge that Bubble Beam, that was a brilliant play. I would have personally charged up even more, not wanting to risk the fact that a Trainer AJG might be able to get to that Grass Knot, but that's why Zay ended up winning this tournament, right? That was a magnificent play, well played. So going into this last battle against Trainer AJG, it's going to be Linoon versus Shelgon. Shelgon is going to resist that Grass Knot, but they get a little bit of lag, but it looks like it's okay. It looks like it's pretty even. So Zay is going to be resisting this Grass Knot. Yes, not very effective damage because of Shelgon's Dragon typing. Zay is going to get this Dragon Breath off. No, not Dragon Breath, sorry. Twister off. Gonna deal decent chunk of damage, but not knock it out. So Trainer AJG is going to get off this second charge move, Grass Knot, and that would have knocked out Zay. So he's going to decide to preserve that energy and take switch advantage. Get a charge move off on this next Pokemon. It's going to be Umbreon. So if in hindsight, Zay should have saved that energy and to get to this Flamethrower, because at this point, Trainer AJG is able to farm up enough energy to get to that foul play and knock out Shelgon. Not sure how much energy he had in the back, but Trainer AJG is going to switch into Nidoqueen, and Zay is going to switch into his Umbreon. So I think Umbreon is able to take a couple of Earth Powers. I'm not 100% sure on that, without shielding. So Trainer AJG decides to use his first shield, and Zay decides to let this first one go. Earth Power, so I believe Umbreon could actually take one more Earth Power, but it's going to be very close, and I'm not sure Zay wants to do that. So he's going to get off this foul play off. He has to get to that second foul play off. He may have to shield. No. Okay, so Zay's able to get to that second foul play off before Nidoqueen is able to get that Earth Power off. Oh, maybe a CMP tie. So Zay may opt. Yeah, he opts to shield as well. Ah, it's an Earthquake. That's why. I don't know why he went for the Earthquake. I'm pretty sure Earth Power would have knocked out the Umbreon, at least Earth Power plus a few more Poison Jabs or something. But Trainer JG is left with very few options, and Alolan Ninetales knocks out his Umbreon, and this Psyshock will knock out this Nidoqueen. So that's GG for Zay. That is 2-0 against trainer AJG. Yeah, let's see if they go for the third battle. Oh, that was actually 3 battles. I may have miscounted, but Zay winning all 3 of those battles. Alright, so getting into this 4th round, he's going against Raj SF. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but Raj SF. So interesting thing about Raj's team is that he's running a Torkoal. Torkoal is going to be resisting those charms, and it is going to be would deal super effective damage against an Alolan Sandslash, right? But otherwise, Torkoal is kind of an interesting Pokemon. It has Earthquake. Yeah, I just don't like it that much in this cup with so many waters. Like, it's kind of hard to use it, in my opinion. But we'll see. Like, Nidoqueen's Earth Power is going to deal super effective damage to it. Water types are going to deal super effective damage to it. Shelgon is going to be resisting that fire damage. There's just so much negative for Torkoal, right? But let's see if he uses it, at all. And yeah, let's get into the battle. Zay's going to lead off with Skuntank, which is a pretty safe lead. So Skuntank, and I expect a swap if it's not Alolan Ninetales. Maybe he'll stay into it, charge up some energy, and then switch. Maybe not. Maybe he's just going to go straight for the crunch. Decides to shield this, because if it's a wild charge, it's going to hurt. His opponent switches into Nidoqueen, so Zay's going to get this crunch off. I'm not sure if he's going to shield it or not. Maybe. Decides not to shield it. Zay's going to switch into his Shelgon. So Shelgon is going to be able to take at least 1 Earth Power, probably 1 Earthquake as well, and able to Dragon Breath down this Nidoqueen with energy for the next Pokemon. Gonna go straight for the Flamethrower, deal decent chunk of damage to this Alolan Raichu if it goes unblocked. It does get blocked though, and Raichu not dealing much damage to this Shelgon though. So Alolan Raichu taking a ton of neutral damage from those Dragon Breaths, but does have a lot of energy charged up at this point. So I believe, yep, Umbreon comes in because those Snarls are going to hit Alolan Raichu for a decent amount of damage. Alolan Raichu opting for the Grass Knot. It's going to get another charge move off right here. Zay opting to not shield again. Eats this Wild Charge, but able to Snarl down this Alolan Raichu. Has a charge move for the next Pokemon. It's Alolan Ninetales. Eats 1 Charm, which deals a decent amount of damage, but does get this Last Resort off. And he's going to opt to switch straight into his Skuntank. And he has 1 shield, and gets off this Crunch. So at this point, Raj does have to block this, otherwise it's GG. Blocks it. Skuntank's going to be chipping down at this Alolan Ninetales with those poison jabs, and that's GG. Good games. Saving that shield because I think Raj does have a charge move, but it will just get shielded anyways. So that's 1-0 for Zay. So unfortunately, we did not see that Torkoal come into play. He did use the Alolan Raichu, seeing that Zay is running double water, and Zay opted not to run any water. So that was probably a strategic decision based on Zay. He doesn't want to get one of his electric Pokemon, one of his water Pokemon stuck against that Raichu, and knowing that Umbreon can take care of Torkoal if that were the case, and Umbreon can take care of Nidoqueen. So knowing that he doesn't need water to beat those Pokemon probably helped counter the fact that he would normally bring in water to deal with those Pokemon. But let's get into the next battle. So Zay is currently 1-0 against Raj SF. So it looks like Zay is going to lead off with Skuntank. I think I saw Umbreon in there too. So Skuntank versus Alolan Raichu again. So again, this is a positive matchup for Skuntank as long as you don't get hit by the Wild Charge. One crunch should pretty much nearly KO this Alolan Raichu if it doesn't. And he does decide to shield that, so I believe Zay is going to shield this now. No, Zay opts not to shield it, takes that wild charge in the face, and going to try to get to the second crunch, but doesn't. Zay decides to just opt out of shielding and take this second wild charge. That was overkill, but that's fine. Zay is up one shield. Believe Alolan Ninetales. No, opting for the Umbreon to, oh yeah, that's right, super effective damage against Alolan Raichu. Gets its last resort off against the Alolan Ninetales. Don't believe Alolan Ninetales is going to shield. Zay switches straight into his own Alolan Ninetales, and with a shield advantage and some health advantage, I believe Zay is going to shield this. Zay is going to farm down this Alolan Ninetales and pretty much have a charge move ready for his next Pokemon, which is a Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen is going to have to block this Psyshock. Oh no, decides not to block that Psyshock. Able to take it though, doesn't completely KO, but with very low health, gets off this Earth Power, I believe. Zay decides to block this, otherwise it would deal significant amount of damage, and Zay's going to farm up and use this Foul Play, so expecting a shield or expecting to let this Nidoqueen faint. Gets it. Nidoqueen is going to get off this next charge move. It's going to be very close, but I think Zay's going to be able to survive. Yep, Zay's able to survive and farm down this Nidoqueen, but I believe it's Alolan Ninetales. No, it's Raichu, sorry. It's Raichu, gets off this last resort. That should KO. So Zay taking 2-0 at lead against Barrage SF. Zay's been kind of killing it with that prediction, or leading with very safe leads. Not sure if that was the second battle or the third battle. Please excuse me, it's kind of early on a Saturday morning. But yeah, Zay takes that round, and going into this, I believe this is the last round. Yes, this is the last round against J-Set. J-Set 36. He is running a Minun, running an Alolan Sandslash, which has been gaining popularity with the absence of a lot of fire Pokemon, and that Granbull. So he's running Double Charm, Alolan Sandslash, and a Minun. So outside of that, he's running a very typical Skuntank, Alolan Ninetales, and a Bibarel. So let's see. So I don't think Zay will want to be running Shelgon in this battle because of 3 Pokemon that can pretty much deal a significant amount of damage to it. Alolan Ninetales does look pretty good because it's going to deal neutral damage to 5 out of J-Set's 6 Pokemon. And Skuntank looks pretty good as well. Those poison jabs are not going to hurt against Alolan Sandslash very much, but it's going to deal a significant amount of damage to pretty much everything else. So let's see what Zay decides to do actually, instead of me speculating. So getting right into the battle, Zay does lead off with the Alolan Ninetales that I mentioned, dealing neutral damage to 5 out of his 6 Pokemon. And it's an Alolan Ninetales mirror match. So we've seen this multiple times. It really depends on how you want to play it and if you expect your opponent to shield or not. Zay does decide to switch out into his Vaporeon. Vaporeon is going to be able to take whatever this Alolan Ninetales decides to throw and farm it down. But Barrage decides to switch. Now he's switch locked. That, in my opinion, that was not a good move. That was a bad move. Now his Skuntank is switch locked. Zay not having a hard counter to Skuntank though, so that might be okay. It's just kind of weird to switch lock yourself like that. Skuntank able to farm down that Vaporeon. I expect Zay to bring out his Ninetales. Yes, Ninetales with 2 shields will do okay, right? He's gonna shield this, may opt to switch. No, opts for the Ice Beam, which I believe will knock out Skuntank at this point. Knowing that Skuntank has zero shields left. And going to switch into his Skuntank right away to try to not allow this Bibarel to farm up energy. Gonna get a charge move off right here. Shield it. It's a Surf, which is fine. Although Hyper Fang would have dealt more damage, shielding a Surf is not a bad situation in this particular matchup. Gets that Sludge Bomb off and nearly KOs that Bibarel. Gets like one more Poison Jab, and that Alolan Ninetales falls. So 1-0 in favor of Zay. But going into the second matchup, let's talk about that last matchup real quick. Alolan Ninetales Mirror. Zay switches into Vaporeon. So that was a strategic maneuver, knowing that nothing on his opponent's team can really hard counter Vaporeon, in terms of like Vaporeon with energy advantage can deal significant amount of damage to anything on his opponent's team, right? Like Minun is the quote-unquote hard counter to the water types, but even so, Minun is going to be taking neutral damage from Vaporeon's Water Gun, Aqua Tail, Last Resort. All those things are going to deal a significant amount of damage to Minun. Minun is not going to be resisting that water damage, so that's, knowing that, I think Zay felt pretty comfortable switching into Vaporeon. Everything else, you know, is going to be like Vaporeon is going to be resisting those fast attack damage or taking neutral damage to it, such as like a Skuntank or Alolan Sand Slash or Granbull. So all these things, knowing that Zay was able to safe switch into his Vaporeon into that Alolan Ninetales. But yeah, let's go into the second battle of this championship round. So Zay's going to lead with Skuntank this time. Again, Skuntank a pretty safe lead. Leads it into Alolan Sandslash. So this is not the best matchup. Let's see if Zay decides to switch out. Alolan Sandslash is going to be resisting those poison jabs, so that's going to hurt, but Crunch is going to deal neutral damage, and he does have stab on it. So Zay lets that first Ice Punch go, and he's going to charge up to a Sludge Bomb. That's not the correct move, but let's see what his opponent does. Decides to shield it, so that was kind of lucky on Zay's side, because that was not the correct move. His opponent uses Ice Punch, a little slow on that switch, switches into Skuntank. Zay's gonna get off this Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail gonna deal a decent amount of damage, but another block. So Barrage SF using those shields super early from these first two battles. Not sure if that's a great decision. That leaves you very susceptible to nuke moves later on in the match. But Zay's going to get off this next Aqua Tail, deal a decent chunk of damage, and this next Aqua Tail is going to be able to KO unless Zay decides to let this Vaporeon go. And Zay does let this Vaporeon go. I expect Alolan Ninetales at this point. Alolan Ninetales is going to be able to farm down this Skuntank and get some energy going into this next Pokemon. It's going to be Alolan Ninetales, and Zay is going to get off this Crunch though. This Crunch going to deal a decent amount of damage, not necessarily nuke the Alolan Ninetales, but put a dent into it at least. So now it's the Alolan Ninetales Mirror. Zay should block this. No, decides not to block it, saving the shield for the Pokemon in the back. Side Shock not dealing about like maybe 25% damage. Alolan Ninetales, Alolan Sandslash, sorry. So this is a positive matchup for Barrage. If Barrage uses Bulldoze instead of, well actually Zay has that shield still. So with that shield, Zay's able to shield this, whether it be Bulldoze or Ice Punch. It's going to be Ice Punch. Now, if Barrage gets to another Ice Punch, this is bad news for Zay. So Zay does lose this battle. What could he have done differently? Not quite sure. Maybe he could have... Yeah, that one's kind of tough, because if he shielded that Side Shock, Alolan Sand Slash would have been able to get to the Bulldoze, or whether it be Bulldoze or what is that rock move? The rock crap. I forgot. It's the rock move. But either way, Zay was put in a tough situation with that lead. Alolan Ninetales versus Alolan Sandslash. That's the one Pokemon that sorry, it was the lead of Skuntank versus Alolan Sandslash. So that was the one lead that counters both Skuntank and Alolan Ninetales. Yeah, just a tough situation. Zay came close to pulling it off, which is pretty surprising by itself, but JSet able to pull it off. Let's get into this last battle of this last round. 1-1 right now. Whoever wins this next one will win the tournament. Okay, another restart. Wow. Okay, so this is the second time that they're restarting. There's some lag issues at this point for some reason, but Skuntank versus Alolan Sandslash. This is a positive matchup for Alolan Sandslash. See how it gets played out. So at this point, I expect an Ice Punch. Zay's going to decide not to shield this. Zay is going to go for the switch right here into Vaporeon. Vaporeon going to deal neutral damage to Skuntank with a slight energy advantage. Vaporeon should be able to win this potentially. See how it goes. His opponent decides to shield that first Aqua Tail. Again, very liberal with that shield usage. Zay's going to block that first crunch. Gonna go for the second Aqua Tail right here. Maybe trying to bait into getting that last short, but nope. His opponent decides to let that one go. Raj is going to get to another charge move. Zay decides to use his second shield because he has a decent amount of energy built up. Gonna farm down this Skuntank and gonna have enough energy to get an Aqua Tail, or maybe even charge up to his own last resort. The Skuntank is going to get a crunch off onto this Alolan Sandslash, which deals a decent amount of damage. Oh, but Zay has no more shields. This Ice Punch is going to KO with pretty much enough energy to get that crunch off. He had enough energy to get that crunch off, but CMP or something, right? But Zay sends out Alolan Ninetales. Alolan Ninetales is going to deal not very effective damage, but still chunking away at that Alolan Sandslash. Alolan Sandslash gets off that Ice Punch. Not very effective damage. Zay is able to charm him down. So the mirror, Zay does have a Psyshock and is going to use it right now, hoping to burn that last shield possibly. Yes. And Zay's going to switch into his Vaporeon and get off an Aqua Tail. So may have been able to get off a last resort, but his opponent decides to use this charge move because his Alolan Ninetales is very low on health and it's his last Pokemon, and that's GG. Well done, Zay. So there's a couple of things that played into that. I think his opponent using shields very liberally early in the matches really kind of made it very simple for Zay to predict or game plan the rest of his battle. Burning those shields early makes it very obvious which charge move you should use, right? Should you use the lower energy, less efficient charge move, or should you use the high energy, highly efficient charge move? But if it gets shielded, that's a lot of more energy wasted, right? So it's kind of a toss-up. Do you think your opponent's gonna block? Do you think your opponent's not gonna block? By using those shields early, you make the decision very easy, especially against a skill trainer like Zay. So yeah, GG Zay, very well played. He used all 6 of his Pokemon in this tournament very efficiently as well, if I do say so. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. It's really good to watch these videos, especially since I have my weighted tournament tomorrow on Sunday. So if you're in the area, feel free to stop by. It's going to be in San Mateo starting at around 12 o'clock in the afternoon, so around noon. if you're in the area, it's going to be a decent amount of people. I think we have 58 people RSVP'd right now. Would have liked it to get to 65, but 58 people, 57, 58 people is still the largest tournament we've had in the Bay. Just because the geography of the Bay Area is kind of weird, but that's pretty much it for today's video. I'd like to thank Zay for allowing me to use his footage and talk this commentary. It's very insightful to watch. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure you hit a thumbs up. And if you haven't already yet, please make sure you subscribe if you enjoy and want to know whenever I upload more content. But that's pretty much it for today's video, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, this is Best and West. I'll catch you guys later.